No. I think.
I'm not the star. I'm not the master of anything.
Vishwaya, you know how many Lego sets I'm buying?
Actually, 3.
I'm making 2. 2 big Legos.
I can be the slide.
Oh, did you get this one?
Yeah,
I got
as long as it
these.
doesn't involve singing
I
after.
got these.
Did you get promotion?
Wearing it from today.
I'm gonna get
Shame on you. Shame on you. Absolute shame on you.
Who's the guy taking? If he sits there, I'm going to joke at him.
See, that's why you
I
said
thought it'll
be
be
easier for you when I'm on the
I
side.
need a prop here.
Okay. Whatever's easiest for you, I'll gladly be
I have
yours.
no idea what's easy. I haven't spoken. How am I? Honestly, I don't remember.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we have two special guests. One is Paramatma Prabhu. He's a temple counselor at Chicago. And also we have His Grace Nityananda Prabhu, who has founded BVS 20 years ago. So we are here because of him. He's also a scholar of Ramayana. If you have any doubts, Ramayana, you can ask.
Student, not scholar.
So without further ado, Prabhu can start.
Well, thank you for having me over. I'm happy to see familiar faces, friends. But this friend is someone I've teased a lot. So if you see him throwing something at me from the back, you'll warn me, right?
Please don't. I finally get revenge.
Yeah, no. And of course, friends are here. Thank you. Nice to see you guys. Thank you
You
for-
look exactly the same as 20 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yes. No, I don't think so. 20 years ago was different. But thank you. Thank you for being here. It's the week before Deepavali. So I asked Yashodanandan, what should I speak on? He said, you can speak on anything, which always is difficult because you don't know where to start, where to end. But I thought of something that might be beneficial for us. And as he said, I'm a student. By no means I'm a scholar. I've just been studying for, some people have spent a lifetime studying it. This is only my 9th year, so I'm still rough on the edges. But here's what you can do for all of us. If you can put your phone on vibrate or turn it off altogether, that'd be great. If you are cricket fans, maybe India, New Zealand highlights might show up. This will next 1 hour somehow curb the urge to find out what's going on. But let me ask you a question. Some of you may know the answer and you will not say it. Okay, this is for the younger people, not the oldies. What is the sweetest thing in this world? Yeah,
Devotion.
devotion. How?
How? It's our true nature.
Okay, very good. What's your name?
Rishabh.
Rishabh. Rishabh means the best, so you got the best name. Someone else.
Peace of mind.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama Mahamantra for me.
Wow. Right. Hey, you're completely messing up with my joke. This is too scholarly a crowd for me. I didn't expect that.
Peace.
What do you say? Bees.
Peace.
Peace. Oh, peace. Okay. Anyone else? Someone wants to try something not so elevated, something more pedestrian?
Love.
Love. Are you a poet?
Sugar.
Kindness.
Kindness. Okay. I have a theory. This is all wonderful. But in real life, those are theoretical. The sweetest thing is when someone speaks nice things about us. Well, that is the sweetest thing to hear. Yes, devotion. But realization that devotion is the sweetest, except for Rishabh, maybe it might be a little hard for most. But the sweetest thing is to hear appreciation or praise about me. So the next question I'm going to ask you, and most likely you'll answer. What's the bittermost thing to hear?
Anger.
things about you.
Hearing bad things about you.
Criticism.
You agree? Criticism. Is it the bitter? I would theorize that actually no. The bittermost thing is to hear someone else's appreciation. Because when I am criticized, I'm still the man or the person in focus. It's about me. So I don't mind criticism. But when sweet things are spoken about others, that's a little hard to digest. The entire world pretty much falls into two groups of what I would say challenges or difficulties. One is, I'm going to throw some Sanskrit words at you because I've been introduced as a scholar, just to, for the sake of maintaining that aura of it. But one is called raga, the other is called dvesha. Raga is not the melody you sing in. Raga means intense holding on to something, attachment, a desire, a very strong something I want. Is called raga. And the opposite of it is dvesha. Actually, last Saturday, I was speaking at Texas A&M University, and I asked students like you there. So a week ago, I even forgot what I asked. We'll come back. So raga and dvesha. The dvesha means some jealousy or what we call envy. Can you help me? What is the difference between jealousy and envy? You heard these terms, right? You want to give it a try? What's envy?
I think they're similar. but
They're similar.
Yeah.
So give it a shot. There's no right or wrong. Just give it a shot. Say something.
I mean, I think they're like the same, so I don't know. The
Okay.
difference.
Anyone else? Rishabh.
Jealousy is like, I don't have it. Envy is like, why does he have it?
Very good. Close.
Envy is I want it. I want what he has.
Very good.
And jealousy is that.
So envy is I want what they have. Jealousy is I don't want them to have what I have. I guard jealously something. But the two categories are attachment or desire, and the other is envy. And there are two personalities in our Vedic line who have written massive, fantastic works that have lasted thousands of years on these two topics. On the topic of envy, the writer is Vyasadeva, who wrote the entire Mahabharata, and it surrounds all about Duryodhana's envy. That Yudhishthira got the kingdom, and he just could not tolerate that Yudhishthira had the kingdom. But not just the kingdom, since their childhood, although they are cousins, he could not tolerate that Yudhishthira somehow had something better. In fact, Yudhishthira really didn't necessarily have something better. He thought Yudhishthira had something better. Once, this is like what we call urban legend type story. Yudhishthira and Duryodhana were summoned, and they were told, go around the world. Okay, Duryodhana, come back and tell me if you find at least one good person. Yudhishthira, you also travel the world and come back and find out if you can go and find out if you can find one bad person. He said that they traveled far and wide, spoke to many people, but both came back home empty-handed. Because Duryodhana could not find one good person. And Yudhishthira in this entire world could not find one bad person. So the entire Mahabharata, of which the Bhagavad Gita is a section, is all about Duryodhana's, or in general, any living being's envy. Then there is what we call desire, or we call it lust, kama, intense, this thing that I want to have, whatever I think I need to have, is the writer Valmiki. And he wrote the Ramayana. Ramayana essentially is the great work that has so many different angles, nuances on the storyline, but it centers around Ravana wanting something, but he always, when something was nice out there, he wanted it. When he first came to know about Sita Devi, he said, "Oh, I must have her." Then his uncle gave him some good advice and told him, "Don't be a fool. This is going to kill your entire family, your extended family, your entire kingdom is going to get finished. Don't even try." Surprisingly, he took that advice and said, "Okay," and went back to Lanka. Then his sister came, the one who didn't have a nose and didn't have her ears. She came and prodded him further, saying, "You'd be a fool to not have someone like this. In fact, there is no one as handsome as you who will match her beauty. Come on." And that became so intense for him that he could not hold back. That's pretty much the story of Ramayana in one sense. But the story is not about Ravana. The story is not about Rama and Sita. Of course, they are. But the story is about you and me. Now, a few weeks ago was Dashera, right? In Dashera, what is the one of the famous things? At least in India, we call it Ram Leela. And there are the effigies of Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Indrajit. And some lovely guy dressed as Ramachandra will shoot an arrow and burn those effigies. So we enact the story of Sri Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Ravana, all. We enact that. But actually speaking, it is Ramachandra, Sita, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Ravana. They are enacting our lives. Ramayana is our life. It's just that we are seeing it as a spectator versus a participant. I talked about cricket. Any cricket fans here? Don't be shy. Okay. No? Others, what are you?
Based.
No sports at all? Wow, it's a very lovely crowd. No sports at all.
Yeah, I follow ping pong.
Ping pong.
Baseball.
I'm going to use a cricket analogy just for the heck of it. When you're watching a game of cricket, let's say, and someone is batting there, and this guy is bowling there, we sitting as spectators often say, "That's not the right choice of shot. He should have played whatever, front foot, something. Square drive. Why is he leaving the ball?" It's one thing to sit back and look at something. But if we are standing there and the ball is coming at us at about 140 miles an hour, it's not that we can say, "Oh, I know the stroke that I have to play." It's very different. But as spectators, we get a much better objective view of things. Whether right or wrong, we get an objective view. Similarly, this entire enactment of Ramayana is our story, so we can see our own life unfold objectively or as a third party, as a spectator. That's pretty much it. So, like I said, there are many, many, many angles to it. One thing that I want to, I guess, focus on today is to begin with this question: what brings opportunity in adversity? Anyone here who has never faced an adversity in life? I mean, you're in IIT, you can't be more adverse than this. Anybody not faced an adversity? No, we have. But what we get out of that adversity, other than pain and suffering, very much depends upon how we take and participate in that adversity. I have a strong voice, but I'd prefer if you can come up with it, if you don't mind. So how we participate, how we engage in that adversity, it will depend or will give us what we can get out of it, something beneficial. So here's a story I want to tell you. Can you go to the next one? Thank you. You know who this is? Valmiki. You know how he got the name Valmiki? Here's what. You know?
Please tell us.
No. Long time ago. I mean, there's a long history, so I'm going to cut through and go fast. There was some guy who blah blah happened something in their life, which ultimately he became a dacoit, a highway robber. So anyone who'd stop and try to eat at a dhaba, he would ambush them and steal their belongings, something. And his main thing was to steal from people. And one day he meets Narada. Now, remember, we talked about Vyasa and Valmiki as the two massive composers about envy and about desire. You know who the guru was for both of them? Narada. Narada knows which student what subject matter to give for them to write. So Narada walks into the scene, and this dacoit by the name Ratnakar attacked Narada. Now Narada doesn't have anything but a veena. And he said, I want this instrument of yours. Narada said, no. But I have a question for you. Why would you steal when you know that the outcome of this is nothing good for you? Why do you take such a risk? He said, I'm doing it for my family. I have to feed them. By this, I take it, I sell it, I pawn it, whatever, I get some money. He said, oh, you're taking all this risk for your family? Will your family share the risk with you? Of course, that's what family is. Narada said, ask them and come back. I'll wait for you here. I'm in no rush to go anywhere. So Ratnakar went home, looked at his wife and said, honey, will you share all, of course you're sharing the money and the things that I'm bringing, but will you share the risk, the consequences of these risks with me? No. Sorry, honey. No. He was a little heartbroken. What? Let me ask my children. They said, no. Your job is to give us all these things, but it's not our job to share the outcomes or the consequences of the risk you're taking. That's for you. So he was so crestfallen. He had never heard anything like this. So he went back to Narada and said, Narada, you have somehow enlightened me that what I'm doing is not the right thing. So help me make my life better. So Narada tells him to chant the name of Rama, which he can't chant. So he gives him it the other way around, Mara. Because when you say Mara over and over again, it sounds like Rama. He sat under a certain place, and Narada said, I'll come back and meet you at some time. Very diligently, he sat there, Mara, Mara, Mara. Years and years and years passed away, and he was so absorbed in the Ramanama, which is the sweetest, that he completely forgot that he was sitting there. He had no sensation of what's happening in his body. He was completely absorbed into it. And so when something doesn't move at all, almost seems like dead, ants begin to crawl. 1, 2, 3,000, 10,000, millions of ants started crawling and slowly built an entire anthill around him. And he was inside that anthill. His flesh was eaten away, but still he was still alive. All we could hear was Ramanama from him. So hundreds and hundreds of years later, Narada Muni comes back and he finds a big anthill. At that time, I'm cutting some of the details of the story, but he's revived. They sprinkle some, Lord Brahma and Varuna come and sprinkle some water on him. And from that anthill comes an effulgent, bright, shining, almost angelic person. And the name he was given from Ratnakara was Valmiki, because he came out of an anthill, and an anthill in Sanskrit is called Valmika. So he was born from a Valmika, so he got the name Valmiki. So the story goes that Valmiki resided in a certain place. That ashram is there even now. And one day, Narada Muni came to meet him. That's how the Ramayana begins. Valmiki asks questions of Narada. It is said that when you meet a guru or a teacher, the first thing to do is to ask relevant questions. Not what's the weather going to be like? Can you predict how the stock market will do in our not that. Questions related to one's betterment. So Valmiki asks 16 questions. Narada gives him 32 answers or more, and that's the first chapter of the Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki is all delighted, and that afternoon, along with one of his students, Valmiki is walking towards the river called Tamasa. And the scene is very beautiful. Can you see the next slide? Is it this? Okay, go back, please. So he comes to the Tamasa river. The birds are chirping. Flowers are fully in blossom. The trees are verdant, nice and green, laden with fruit, or fruits of all varieties you can think of. So imagine, just visualize. Okay, birds of varieties and colors and sizes cooing and flying here and there. Butterflies everywhere. The river flowing beautifully, and as if the river was singing. This is all poetry, right? It's called Kavyam. Ramayana is a poetry. In that, the water of Tamasa is so clear that Valmiki looks at the water and just delighted to see it. The whole scenery is so. Who's the sweetest thing? Was peace? You said it was peace? It was so peaceful. So peaceful. It was amazing. Very serene, placid, wonderful. At that time, in that little distance away, Valmiki sees two croucher birds. Go one more slide forward. Okay, so that's the croucher bird. So these birds, actually, this is the more modern name. They fly in from the northern side of the Himalayas, and they come into northern part of India during cold season, and that's where they mate. There's something about these cranes. Okay. In Sanskrit, they're called croucher. They, like penguins, pick a mate, and that's the mate for life. They don't believe in dating and trying different things. Just one mate, and they stay with that. So these two birds, the male and female, given the circumstances, were mating with each other. So they were completely absorbed. I'm going to give a very bad analogy. I hope you don't mind. It's like two people sitting somewhere and making out where they're completely oblivious of what's happening around them. They were like that, just enjoying themselves. And the scenario is such that it's natural. As Valmiki is looking at the birds, an arrow passes right by his ear. Okay, go to the previous slide. Yeah. I don't like to stand there because it feels like I'm hiding. So thanks to Anirudh. Thank you. So an arrow whizzes past his ear, and he sees that the male bird has been shot. So suddenly, in this very lovely scenario with nature in its bounty, there is this very drastic, dastardly, horrible situation where the male bird has been shot, and the male bird falls to the ground dead, bleeding. The female bird begins to cry loudly, wailing for her lover because she was not going to take another mate. She had hoped that she will come, mate with him, lay her eggs, take care of her family, get back up there, and just live a happy life. Suddenly, when this happens, Valmiki, who, by the way, has been chanting Ram's names for so many thousands of years, you would assume that a person like that is very peaceful, doesn't get easily agitated. Guess what happens to Valmiki? He becomes very angry. So someone may say, how can a sage become angry? What's the use of all the chanting of Ram's names and so much meditation? Why are they angry? Have you ever felt, why should saintly people become angry? There's a reason why. And in this anger, I have to look back, sorry. In this anger, he can't see the hunter. That's a hunter who shot that arrow. He becomes so angry that he pronounces a curse. He says, Ma nishada pratishtantam agama shashwati sama. Yet krauncha mithunadekam avadhi kamamohi. I think the translation's on the next slide.
Yep.
Okay. Someone who has a good voice. Yashodananda, can you see from there?
Yes.
Can you say it nice and loud in your dramatic voice? He's our all-time actor, director, so you want dramatic reading from him.
Oh, hunter,
There you go.
because you have killed the male bird and separated it from its companion when they were approaching the peak of their passion, you will be condemned for all ages to come. Let all inauspiciousness befall you.
Now the question is, did the hunter do anything wrong?
No.
That's his profession. He's supposed to hunt animals, right? And birds. So that's what he's going to take home. And the hunter's waiting to take that bird whilst he's crying. He hasn't done anything wrong. It's his profession. It's like someone cursing you because you wrote a software code. That's what I'm supposed to do. Or sold something. They sold a contract and someone curses him for closing a deal. Like, what? Yeah, whatever. It's so Valmiki becomes very sad. He's saddened by the very dastardly act. It's nothing to do with the hunter, but at that moment, has any of us had that experience? In some situation of anger or sadness, we have said something that perhaps we didn't mean it, or we regret later. If you're married, you definitely have it. As long as you're not married, you can speak anything and get away with it. After that, if you want to be alive, there's only 2 words for you.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry comes later. Shut up is first. Answer. So I tell couples that, especially husbands, that there are, if you, whatever you do, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, it's usually wrong. The way you can get out of it is 2 words. First one is sorry, and the other is yes, dear. That will keep you happy and healthy for a long time.
I thought you're right.
That's always there. Yes, dear is always there. You're right. So we've regretted something. So he said, oh, how is it that after so much I have said something like this? Something, and his student who was there with him, he said, the curse that you have uttered, is that slide there next? Shoka and Sloka thing? Yeah. Okay. He said, the curse you have uttered actually is very poetic. It fits a certain rhythm and it fits a certain meter. There are 32 syllables arranged perfectly in 4 lines, each line with 8 syllables in it. And this is a very special meter. In fact, all your verses, I shouldn't say all, almost all your verses in the Bhagavad Gita are this meter. It's called Anushtuk Chanda. Chanda is a meter. In Sanskrit poetry, there are meters and there are different types of meters. So the one, for example, this is 32. It's called Anushtuk. The one that we are perhaps familiar with is Gayatri. It is called Gayatri because there are 24 syllables in it. So we said, oh, did you realize that in your anger or sadness, actually, Shoka, sadness about the crowncher birds, you uttered something that is very poetic. And Valmiki said, oh, I didn't notice that. But he stayed with it, and then he goes back to his ashram after this episode, and Lord Brahma comes to visit him. Is that the next slide? I'm looking here. Yeah. Lord Brahma himself comes. He's the original person in the universe. Imagine someone like Brahma visiting. And so Valmiki receives Brahma very respectfully. Brahma makes Valmiki sit in front of him and says, don't worry, what you spoke has nothing wrong in it. And that your anger that you were worried about is not a character trait of yours. It was induced by me. Because in this, what you have spoken is something very fantastic, and let this be the origin of a work that I want you to do. And to help you, Saraswati will guide every step of the way. You will not utter even one akshara, letter that is not true. Okay? Confirm. So Valmiki then began pondering on this shloka. And the reason I'm building this is, in this adversity, suddenly there was an opportunity of doing something that will benefit humanity, not just that generation, but the next generation. Do you know how long Ramayana has been in existence? I'm going to say something and maybe be almost on the side of being unbelievable. Any idea what's the age of Ramayana? 17 million plus years. That's when it was written. So till date, Ramayana is being discussed. There is audience for it. There are students for it. And it has benefit. Anyone who reads Ramayana benefits in their life of how to live their life. So that's the opportunity that came from that adversity. However, this is my punchline before I show you what that verse means. The reason there was opportunity is because in that situation, Valmiki was sad / angry, not for himself. Usually, we are angry or sad when something happens to us. And perhaps a little, I'm saying we, I don't mean all learned people like you. I'm just saying we as a common way of speaking. When there is pain or suffering out there, it may not move as much. Some people are moved by it. Most people for a few minutes, a few moments, and then they move on with life, but not Valmiki. So the point here is, if somehow our heart can empathize, feel some pain for others' pain and suffering, there is a great opportunity awaiting in that adversity, whatever it is. Now, we may not see it. Valmiki didn't see it. It just came out of his mouth, but he didn't see it. But the fact that he was feeling pain for, after all, a bird. What is the thing about that bird? Birds are hunted every day. But in this beautiful scenario, when they were mating, the scenario is such that birds were very vulnerable because they were not looking for security, nothing. They were just absorbed in each other. So they couldn't even defend themselves or fly away. That was his sadness. And in that, says he cursed the hunter, which doesn't mean anything. He's doing his profession. But the pain he felt for the birds. So when we are moved by something, when we see someone else's pain, difficulty, hurt, if we can even this much help, assist, even empathize. Sometimes we can't help people out of their difficulty. It's not possible because we're not big movers. We can't help. But to say, you have my shoulder. I'm there for you. I'm here to hear whatever you have to say. Just being there. Sometimes in their difficulty, you don't have to speak anything. Just being there is enough. But if it moves us, that is when great opportunity comes. However, who gave him that opportunity? Brahma. So it requires the presence of a saintly being in our life. It is that saintly being's grace that actually makes our heart a little softer to find and tune in to others' pain and suffering. Because it is their compassion that rubs off on us. If we don't have a compassionate person in our life, someone who thinks about, cares about others' pain and suffering, we will not feel the same. And it's not just a person. If you have a few, great. If that's a generational thing, that's greater even. I mean, that's wonderful. people generally get busy in life, get too caught up in what's happening for me that I can't see beyond myself. So that's my, I guess, presentation. So now let's look at what that verse really means. That verse, Valmiki, as he sits and thinks about it, he realizes that it is the entire Ramayana encapsulated in that verse. Okay. Someone else who has a good voice?
O Lord Vishnu,
Lord.
O Lord Vishnu, Lord Rama, who is the resting place of Goddess Lakshmi and Sita, may you get fame that will last for ages for killing one among the couple of demons, namely Ravan and Mandodari, who was overtaken by lust.
That's the entire Ramayana. Ma is a word for Lakshmi. Actually, in Sanskrit, Ma means not. Ma also means Lakshmi. Nishada is a hunter. But Ma Nishada means that person in whom Lakshmi Devi resides. Lakshmi Devi always resides in Lord Vishnu's heart. So Ma Nishada is Lord Vishnu or Lord Ramachandra. When he told the hunter, Ma Pratishtanto, may you never have any fame, never any peace of mind, or just your life is mess. But here he says, Ma Nishada, Lord Vishnu or Lord Ramachandra, Pratishtantam Agama Shashwati. May you be famous till the eternity of time. Why? Yet Krauncha Mithunat. Mithuna is a couple. Krauncha, although that's the Krauncha bird, in Sanskrit the bird is called Krauncha because it doesn't walk straight, it's crooked. Isn't Ravana a crooked fellow? So Krauncha Mithunat Ekam. Of them, one of them, the male, was killed. That was Ravana. Why? Kama Mohita is completely taken over by lust. That's where we started. Kama or Raga. So Kama Mohita. We need the presence of Sri Rama in our lives for the Ravana within to be removed. The Ravana within is the lust. Lust that whatever I see, whatever I think of, whatever I hear, whatever I taste, I smell, I want it. Remember, Raga is what we talk. That's very, very profoundly strong. Especially that which belongs to Rama, Lakshmi. Everyone does Lakshmi Puja coming up. Here's a big problem. Most people do Lakshmi Puja and forget Narayan. Because Narayan, they think, takes away, Lakshmi gives. Can you imagine if you call someone's wife but don't call the husband, which is going to come? I don't think so. So this principle is taught in the Ramayana. There were two people, Ravana and his sister. What is his sister's name? Shurpanaka. So Shurpanaka first meets Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana. She tells Rama, I want you. Don't want your wife. I want you. Rama says, sorry, already married, take it. No, I want you. No, there's a long dialogue. But anyway, she said, oh, this Sita is the obstacle. I'm going to eat her away. And then it's you and me. That's when Lakshmana cuts off her nose. So Shurpanaka wanted Rama, but not Sita. Then her brother, Ravana, he wanted Sita, but not Rama. He said, oh, if I have to fight Rama, whatever his case, I will fight a battle. Although he was being advised, don't be stupid, don't be foolish, you're going to die. No, I want Sita, I want Rama. And there is another brother, Vibhishana. What did he want? He wanted Sita and Rama. That is why we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, always Sita and Rama together. That's what we aspire, not one, not Lakshmi Puja only. Actually, it's wrong. But Lakshmi with Narayan, Sita with Rama, Radha with Krishna. Therefore, we chant always. The word we never even say Rama, we say Shri Rama, because it's always with his consort, with his Shakti. Therefore, this mantra, therefore Sri Ramayana, therefore. So this story, there's, like I said, there are hundreds of angles, but important for tonight is if our heart can move a little bit, by seeing someone else's pain or difficulty, and we have some gesture. That gesture will come because there is some grace behind us, and there's great opportunity to do good for others, by which we also will benefit. How much time, right? It's 8 o'clock. Any questions, thoughts, comments? You like it? You don't like it?
Is it considered as the first verse of the Sanskrit poetry?
The Ramayana, this verse,
Not the Sanskrit poetry, the first verse of Sanskrit poetry.
not the first verse of Sanskrit poetry. Ramayana is called the first poetry, Adi Kavya, and Valmiki is called the Adi Kavi. Adi is the first poet, and this is the first poetry. You want some nice facts about Ramayana? I'll give you one. I talked about Gayatri. Generally, it's not said out, but the Gayatri, which I'm not going to tell you, I'm sure you all know nowadays it's famous, but it starts with Tat Savitur. So Valmiki wanted all of us, whether we are eligible or not for chanting Gayatri, to get the same benefit of reciting and meditating on Gayatri. Because people in Kali Yuga may or may not be eligible or qualified. So what he did is he coded the entire Gayatri mantra in the Ramayana. So there are 24 syllables in Gayatri. There are 24,000 shlokas in Ramayana. And the first letter of every 1000th verse or 1001st verse begins with the successive Gayatri syllable. So by the time you study the entire Ramayana, you get to see Ramachandra, you get to see Sita, and Rama's wonderful devotees, Hanuman and everyone. So the entire meaning of Gayatri is revealed. Any other thoughts, comments? I'm happy to take and see what your reflections might be. Anything? Yeah.
I have two questions regarding that hunter story.
Yeah.
Hunter killed one of the birds. If he would have tried to kill the second bird, would that have been mercy? I mean,
That other would have been mercy? No. I mean, from his point of view, there is no mercy.
like for the bird.
There is no mercy for the killing. Is not a mercy.
I mean, like it was like
It was sad.
It was a single mating bird, right?
Right, but to say to kill someone so that their suffering ends is a more modern idea. But it's not necessarily a conventional Vedic idea.
But the hunter's job is to hunt.
That is correct. He's doing his vritti, occupation. So now, in another text somewhere, not in the Valmiki Ramayana, he leaves it as part of the mystery. But Vyasa, in one of the Puranas, tells you that that hunter is actually Lord Vishnu, who's making the story pass on for it to manifest. Yeah. Thoughts, reflections? Maybe you can share with me one thing that struck you, that you didn't know, but something you learned. I'd love to hear.
I love that this verse was inverted based on how his mindset changed as a result of speaking to Narada.
Yes.
That Narada brought up a complete metamorphosis. The exact same words meant something so drastically different.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great, let's just say it's a great metaphor for our lives, that it's really all in the mind and how we choose to view things and interpret things.
Good. Very good. Thank you. It's all about how you see. It's the perspective that you get. The reason we started Vedic Vision Society, to look at the words Vedic Vision Society, so that there are more than one person. There's more than one who can see, who has a different worldview. We want students to go into the world with the Vedic worldview, how you see the world from the perspective of the Vedic, of the Vedic teachings. And you had a second question.
Oh, it was you answered it in the first one.
Oh, wow. Anything else? Yeah, Mohit.
Yeah, so your comment about you need a teacher or a guide to help soften your heart so you're able to actually empathize with other people.
Right.
And so it's striking that envy is the opposite of that. Like, or envy or like when you're an envious type of person, you're like, oh, I know everything.
Right.
I don't need necessarily somebody else. And so it's just kind of for me, it kind of hits home because to quench that envious, you need somebody else, and
Exactly.
your heart is fighting it. So that's the dilemma that we have in our lives, is to first just come to the stage to say, I need some help, which challenge.
That is on us.
Yeah.
That first step is always on us.
Yeah.
It's not like people in general don't have empathy or compassion. That's not my point. There is. I mean, I'd be foolish to say none of us has some empathy and compassion in our heart. What's important is how to direct it. Arjuna was an excellent archer, but he needed Drona to teach him how to. That is what we need. Let's take tennis. Whoever's a tennis player, they have great talent, but even they need a coach on how to make their talent beneficial for them, how they win. Right? So having talent in this case, it's that true. We may have compassion, but we may not know how to show compassion. So someone has to teach us how to direct it, how to move it, harness it in such a way that it's beneficial for us and others. Anything else? No? Oh, perfect. Awesome. She's on the floor. Because you saw Mohit's name there?
Oh,
Kama
the Kama-
Mohikam?
No, he pointed it out to me.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not good.
So my question is, so you were explaining how the Mahabharata was focused on envy,
Yeah.
and the Ramayana was focused on
Lust.
Lust. So I guess my question is, why those two topics? Like, because usually you hear, oh, it's the ego that is the source of
Sure.
envy, lust, everything else. So why not focus it on the?
Because these two perpetuate life in the material world. Ichha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. And then Krishna says, Sarge yanti para. One goes from one womb to another, because guided by Ichha and dvesha. Although there's ego, but ego is always prodded, pushed, and guided. I shouldn't say guided, it's a nice word. Misguided by these two. Essentially, those two categories, not so specifically, but these two categories. In some other place, we hear the word aham mama, like that. It's I and mine. They're all the ones that are further coloring the ego. Yashodan, I'm looking to you to say, cut it. Okay, or whenever, yeah, cut it.
Well, I mean, adversities provide opportunities.
Yeah.
What if you don't capitalize on that opportunity? And
Oh, don't worry, more adversities. Big, small, medium. I mean, the world is full of challenges, right? It's like a course in which there's a test and there's another, and the test is not, some person sitting there saying, I want to put this guy to the ringer. It's not like that. I want to see them do better. I want to see them become elevated. So the world is designed in such a way that there's always something. It may not be, something big and earth-shattering. Some can be, but on a small day-to-day thing. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I'm about to go to work. You've seen my apartment. I'm about to go to work. So I put on my shoes. So from there, I went to wash my hand So I go into this bathroom, wash my hand, I come out, and this is my door. I come here, and some guy walks right into my apartment. He has a phone in his hand, AirPods, and he's walking right into my living room.
Are you kidding?
So, he was in India. So my first was, so what do you want?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, oh, he didn't realize where he was. Oh, and so my energy was, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So I said, then okay, I shouldn't be so, when he's being, he said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the 12th floor. I said, yeah, this is the 9th floor. Oh, how absent a phone. He just walked into a 9th floor, some apartment, and tried to open the door and walk, because my door was open because I was ready to go to work. And so my opportunity, not that I catch on, this is one of those times I caught it, so I'm hitting my drum roll, is I told him, oh, since you're anyway here, you want to take darshan of Lord Ram? And then walked out. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. But I could have been nasty, which initially I was. Huh?
Money.
Money.
President money decides.
Money always decides.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Let's give a round of applause.
I'm happy to be with you.
We have Kirtan now, and then there are Diwali.
Thank you. And I'm here for some more time. If you want to chat, I'm more than happy to chat with you. If you don't want to chat, don't feel obliged to. That's okay.
So we're gonna do call and response singing. So I will sing first and then everybody follow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, everyone. So we have our main event for this semester coming up next Thursday on October 31st, which is Diwali. Ooh. Also, we have a skit planned for Diwali, and we have a couple of non-speaking roles if anyone is interested in it. And we won't be having our usual Friday session for next week since we have Diwali. Thank you. And Prashadam will be right here. Thank you very much.